name is Ed Friesen, and if many of you that are watching this are like me, you have memories of the Girl Scout cabin. Thankfully it's older than I am, but there's many things about it that have shown quite a bit of wear now, and we're being faced with a difficulty as a city and a community. What are we going to do about our Girl Scout cabin? I have many memories here. I'm resisting the temptation right now to crawl up this to get on the roof. The last time I tried that, my mother told me, don't ever do that again or I will spank you. And being the obedient son that I am, I've not done it since then, and I'm not going to do it now. What we have is a roof that's leaking. It's causing some rot in some of the roof support timbers and in some of the areas that are supporting the covering for the roof. We'd like to re-roof it. It's going to be an expensive project. There's a number of things that need to be done. We have some groups that are looking to form a committee that'll be spearhead a fund drive in order to support this. The city does not have the funds at this time to do anything with it, so we've made it a community project, or we're trying to make it a community project. As we go on through this and view, we'll be looking at some areas that need some improvement. So there may be some ideas come forth from people seeing that, watching this, so that they would know that it is an interesting building. Built at a time when craftsmanship was very important, and we'd like to preserve some of that. So you have to bear with us as we look around and try and narrate, point out some of the issues that we have to deal with here in order to make this work. There's a few things out here that we could point out that are part of the problem that we have with the roof here on the Girl Scout cabin. We have a couple of big trees in each corner towards the front, and one quite large one in the back, that are hanging over our building. And with wind, some branches tend to drop every time onto the roof. Also, there's quite an accumulation, if you look up there, of leaves that really don't have a good way to get off of there. We wind up with branches and leaves during a rainstorm down there that'll start to build a little bit of a dam, if you please, where our drains are. There's two drains to the back of the building and one to each side on these front rooms that tend to get plugged. It doesn't drain, run up the side and down in, make the roof wet. Nothing tends to dry out in there when it's completely shaded, as it is most of the time. There's the drains right there. I don't know if you could reach up there and shoot up in there with the camera. It'd be interesting to see what was up in there, but it might not tell you much either. Yeah, you can see part of the trouble that there is there. I'll show you some things that are of concern. Move into this small room that's in the kitchen. Here's some of the evidence that you'll see up here of things of water damage. This area right here, the next thing I'll poke through there will be the roof, because this is sadly deteriorated, as you can see. Also, if you look on the other side of the room, there's been some repairs affected already in this area and along here that we bear looking at again, but it's not as in bad a shape as what it is on the south side. Looking back in here, once again, you can, looking up the top of this, you see some of the areas that are not conducive to supporting much new roofing, as it were. And there's some areas like this that need to be addressed, but we need to, once again, work on the outside of it before we start doing the roofing here. On down in the corner down here, you'll see more water damage apparent from leaking. Right above here is a drain. There's also a drain in the other corner that we just looked at. This is where one of the drains up above there. Some of the things that get setting along the edge start to rot through the wood. The other room that we have here is you're going to see some of the same damage and some attempts at repair over the years. Has been working in here on this beam. There's some areas here that are pretty loose. things that need to be addressed before you put a new roof on top of that so that it has some support and will actually work for what we want it to do. Other than some interior finish issues in here, there's some cosmetic things that can be done after the roof is dry. Well, after the roof is up, so it'll stay dry in here, so we can do those. But all in all, the main areas of work that need to be accomplished are outside, and that's what we're hoping someone will put together a program and do some fundraising efforts so that the money will be available to do some of those repairs.
Do we have enough money to cover costs like this? City of Fairbury as a whole has plenty of funds in order to do projects. The problem isn't prioritizing them. And as you come up on different projects, an example for one that's a major priority this year, or that we're just completing, has been the purchase of a aerial ladder truck. $300,000 is what we've kind of budgeted for that. $150,000 of that a grant, $150,000 of it our own local funds, and there's potential that it'll cost more than that $300,000. We'll have to pick up the remainder of it. In this upcoming year, we'll have to make sure that we're able to address some of the storm sewer issues that have arisen. We've had the two main breaks that are fairly well publicized where some pickup size holes have formed in the ground. Just some initial cost estimates on that in the $500,000 range. And you start looking at how do you prioritize that and make that happen. And realizing when you look at that's looking at just a small portion of our storm sewer system. And then you look at this in relation to that, the Girl Scout cabin in relation to that. They're both priorities to set portions of this community. They're both very viable projects. And yet, how do you prioritize the two? Or you throw in, for example, next door is a swimming pool, and we're looking at the potential for having to do some major renovations on the floor of that. And we don't have any ideas what cost estimates are going to come back on that. And where we come down to is, priority-wise, we know we have to be able to handle the storm sewer issue. That's just making sure that we're able to handle the water flow through this community. That's a make or break issue. The swimming pool is a viable operation where we have a few hundred families who go through that during the course of the year. The Girl Scout cabin is used by quite a few groups, and yet it's probably more its primary role is its historical value. And how do you prioritize your funding capabilities between them? And you know, from a perspective of where we have to prioritize projects, it comes far down the list for meeting our immediate day-to-day needs. And that's where it's difficult to find the money from the city's perspective to put towards this project.
Mr. Furneaux is correct about the prioritizing. Whether we know it or not, or believe it or not, city is a business like any other business. There are priorities we have to come through. But you'll recall a couple of years ago, the Fun Park, otherwise known as the Wood Park down there, was a community effort. Everybody got together and they built that. I think it's a possibility that if we get enough service clubs involved as a project, get people interested who are residents and former residents of our community, maybe we can come up with some funds. That's not going to have to do it that way because there are other priorities, the sewer system, the pool, and so forth. That's my comment.